listening to the Friday Five here on the Agent Survival Guide podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Ruppel, and this is our weekly list of 5 things you should know about. We've been in a bit of a relentless news cycle at the moment, and that doesn't seem to be slowing down. We've got some important 11th hour updates for ACA agents that came in after we published our ICRA interview with NextBen's Lisa Marzolino. So we'll be talking about that, and of course, some other interesting things that happened this week. But first and foremost, coming in at number 5, we've got some field notes coming in from out in the field. On Tuesday, we were on location at the Penn Harris Convention Center in Harrisburg, kicking off my summit tour for this AEP. I just want to say thank you so much to those of you who attended, stopped by our booth, followed along with our podcast, and provided some feedback or asked questions. At the booth with me this time around, Matt Stelzer. He is our digital marketing manager here at Ritter. Some of you might have attended his webinars over the past few months. We had so many great conversations with agents, from answering questions and talking marketing strategy to getting some great feedback on the Medicare quote engine that I was able to pass along to our development team. One of my favorite things about attending the summits is putting faces to names, having those conversations. So thank you again to all of you who stopped by and said hello. Next week, we will be in Philadelphia at the Alloy on Thursday, September 4th. We are switching locations this year, so do not go to the Crown Plaza or you'll be disappointed because we won't be there. Head over to the Alloy. It's right down the street. Super easy to find. There's a Starbucks on site, so yay for that. And if that is your summit, again, stop by, say hello, bring your questions, and grab a podcast t-shirt. Super short mention here, way too short to even run the Ruppel Recommends sounder, but you can certainly think of it this way. We recently started watching The Residence on Netflix at my house, and if you like murder mysteries, you would probably really enjoy this. I'd describe it as a cross between the game Clue, the movie Knives Out, with a little bit of the TV series High Potential mixed in, all set at the White House. Love the art direction in the opening credits, and I'm always here for a good old-fashioned whodunit. Moving on to number 3. Apple has officially announced their awe-dropping event will take place on Tuesday, September 9th. This is the event where we will likely get the new Apple iPhone 17 announcement, an official date for iOS 26, and all the other operating systems that are switching over to the liquid glass display, and then also the newest generation Apple Watches. I would say those are the things we can count on at this point, and if I hear any good rumors that we're getting more than that, I will certainly report back. Number 2. Spotify has added its platform to the list of many that offer direct messaging. The new feature will allow users to send text messages and Spotify content via the direct messaging system to other users on the platform. Spotify did describe interactions as being, quote, with people you've interacted with before through Spotify, end quote. Seems similar to Instagram, where you can receive messages from friends but have to accept a message request from someone who does not know you or follow you. And it is pretty easy to just ignore those requests if you so choose. Interesting move, and Spotify does maintain that they're not trying to take away from the other social platforms. My take on this as a marketer is that it's another metric to add to the mix that is the Spotify algorithm. And that brings us to our main story at number 1, the 76-page decision by U.S. District Judge Brendan A. Herson in the City of Columbus versus Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and the Department of Health and Human Services. Judge Herson's decision puts a stay in place on many of the provisions outlined in the CMS 2025 Marketplace Integrity and Affordability Final Rule. We went through those rule changes back in our June 27th Friday 5 episode, so we'll be linking to that in the notes for reference. When we went through that final ruling, we broke out implementation of the new rules by time frame, starting with the more immediate changes and then working our way into the future. So for continuity and clarity, that's how we've chosen to handle what we talk about in this episode. So let's get started. First up, provisions that are still going into effect, because there are a few that will and have moved forward, and I think it's important to identify them. The removal of the monthly special enrollment period for advanced premium tax credit eligibles for those with an annual household income at or below 150% of the federal poverty level. The removal of this special enrollment period went into effect on Monday, August 25th, 60 days after publication of the final rule in June. As for income inconsistencies, the resolution period for income inconsistencies reverted back to a 90-day period on August 25th, removing the 60-day extension that was once allowed. Enrollees have 90 days to get those discrepancies resolved. CMS has made the switch to the preponderance of evidence standard of proof for their evidentiary standard when deciding on termination of agent, broker, and web broker marketplace agreements for cause. Back in our June episode, we mentioned that preponderance of evidence means that, quote, a fact is considered proven if it is more likely than not to be true, end quote. And then burden of proof is met when, quote, there is a greater than 50% chance that the claim is true, end quote. This is the standard of proof used when trying most civil trials and falls smack in the middle of the 5 defined standards of proof. And then the last change to go into effect on August 25th, the beginning of DACA recipients losing eligibility for marketplace coverage and premium tax credits. While this change went into effect on Monday, August 25th, in healthcare.gov states the last day of coverage eligibility will be September 30th, 2025. We will have a link to find more state-specific information from healthcare.gov in our episode notes. Next, let's talk about the provisions that have been stayed by Judge Herson's decision. Changes to income verification are now on hold. This includes when IRS income data reports an income level that's less than 100% of the federal poverty level, but the enrollee attests to income that would make them eligible for the tax credit. It also stays the provision that would have required enrollees to submit income verification when no tax data is available. And then the last of these stayed provisions that was set for August 25th, insurance carriers will not have the ability to require payment of past due premium amounts as a condition for enrollment in marketplace coverage by that same insurer in the future. Judge Herson agreed that this provision equated to a carve-out that CMS did not have the statutory authority to make. Now, let's move on to some changes that are a little further out on our timeline. These would have gone into effect for plan year 2026, but will no longer do so. The $5 premium penalty for marketplace enrollees with a $0 premium who let their coverage automatically renew rather than actively renewing their coverage. Judge Herson wrote in his decision that, quote, plaintiffs colorfully describe this requirement to reduce the value of the APTC by at least $5 a month as a junk fee, end quote. Interesting sentiment, but it would seem that he agreed with the plaintiffs enough to stay the provision. For plan year 2026, CMS would have allowed some changes to the de minimis amounts, making changes to the actuarial value of plans, essentially letting carriers offer coverage underneath what was previously considered standard value. And then going hand in hand with that, the provision changing the premium adjustment methodology was also stayed. Plan year 2026 would have brought additional marketplace eligibility verification for special enrollment periods. CMS also had a threshold for those additional verifications. Both of these provisions have been stayed. And then last but not least, for plan year 2026, tax credits were to be reconciled on a yearly basis. With Judge Herson's ruling, that look back stays at the 2-year mark. So an individual still has 2 years to reconcile advanced premium tax credits with the IRS before they are deemed ineligible to receive said tax credits. Couple other important takeaways I would like to mention here. First and foremost, despite the fact that this lawsuit was not brought by all of the states, the stay on these provisions applies at the federal level. Just in case you were wondering, because that was definitely one of my first questions after my initial read-through. Another thing that this lawsuit did not change, the changes to open enrollment coming for the 2027 plan year. Those new dates will stand. Open enrollment on the federal marketplace will run from November 1st through December 15th. On state marketplaces, OEP must start by November 1st and can only run through December 31st. The full time frame may not run for more than 9 calendar weeks, and all ACA open enrollment period enrollments must have an effective date of January 1. And then, of course, the enhanced tax subsidies put in place during the pandemic are still set to expire at the end of 2025. There's been no movement there. We will continue to keep you updated on these and other legislative changes. A great way to make sure that you are staying updated as well is to follow along with our show. That way, you'll get the episodes delivered straight to your feed rather than having to seek information out as you go. We put out a Friday 5 episode almost every Friday of the year, barring any significant disruptions like vacations and holidays. And you'll also get notified of our other episodes that run the gamut from sales and marketing tips to product information, technology, and of course, interviews with experienced professionals in our industry. Following along with our podcast is also a great way to show that you like what we're doing here on the Agent Survival Guide. So please hit that follow button where you're listening and make your love of our show official. Thank you so much for listening, liking, and following along with us. We really would not be here without your support, and we appreciate you so much. With that, I hope you have a great weekend. Stay healthy and stay safe out there, and we will see you next week. The Agent Survival Guide podcast is a production of Ritter Insurance Marketing, an integrity company. This episode was written and produced by me, Sarah Ruppel. Script editing and fact check by Tina Lamoureux. Podcast design by Urban Rivera. Follow along with our show wherever you like to listen.